This is question number one of the Tossups artists 31 through 45. The first version of this painting was burned in a fire at the artist's studio, and the second was destroyed during the bombing of Dusseldorf in World War II. A man plucking a banjo and a man reeling in a fish appear in Robert Colescott's parody of this painting. The artist, Worthington Whitredge, modeled for a title person in this painting. 50,000 people attended an 1851 exhibition of this painting at the Stuyvesant Institute in New York. In this painting, the artist of Westward Ho, a man grasps an anachronistic flag behind the title figure. Nathaniel Green leans towards the ice in this painting, which was adapted for New Jersey State Quarter. For 10 points, name this Emanuel Leutze painting of an American general leading his troops in Trenton. Through 45, number 2. After this man's death, a friend of his made a compendium of engravings based on this man's painting, which is called Recueil Julien. In one of his portraits, the male subject has pink ribbons on his shoes, but apart from that is dressed almost entirely in white. That subject is believed to represent the character Pierrot and is called Gilles. A scene from Florent Dancourt's The Three Cousins inspired another painting by this artist, which includes a garlanded statue of Venus on the right. Pooty frolic around the pink sails of a ship in this painting, which depicts a fete gallant on the legendary island where Venus was born. For 10 points, name this French Rococo painter of the embarkation for Cytherea. Works 31 through 45, toss-up 3. A painting by this artist depicts two trees on its left and mobs of putti flocking to the title subject. Another painting by this artist of the Fountain of Indolence was inspired by a Thomas Clarkson book retelling the events aboard the Zong and is housed in Boston's Museum of Fine Arts. That painting by this artist shows floating bodies being left behind by a ship sailing in a storm. In his most famous work, this artist portrayed a hare run alongside a train. For 10 points, name this artist of Slave Ship and Rain, Steam, and Speed. Toss-up number 4, artist and works 31 through 45. This artist personally cultivated the exotic fruit held by Hannah Fairweather Winthrop in one of his mini portraits with a reflective table. In another of his portraits, 12-year-old Augustus Brine stands next to a giant anchor. Joshua Reynolds admired a portrait that this artist made using his stepbrother Henry Pelham as a model. In that painting, a boy holds a gold chain tied to a creature nibbling at an acorn. A black man holding a rope is one of 9 figures on a boat in a dramatic 1778 painting by this artist of a boy with a flying squirrel. In his best-known painting, a harpoon is about to be driven into the title creature, who is poised to eat 14-year-old boy in Havana Harbor. For 10 points, name this early American artist of Watson and the Shark. Works 31 through 45, toss-up number 5. This artist thematically included overturned furniture in many paintings, including one titled The Bagnio, in which Silvertongue has murdered his lover's husband. A series of lost paintings were paired with surviving engravings by this artist of the premature death of Moll Hackabout. In one work by this artist, Sarah Young is dragged away as a jailer in a debtor's prison, demands money from her husband. In addition to Marriage a la Mode, this artist painted an 8-part series in which the title character wastes his money in London before being sent to Bedlam Asylum. For 10 points, name this 18th century artist of A Rake's Progress. Artists and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 6. In this man's first dated painting, angry men hold rocks over the kneeling, pink-robed body of St. Stephen. He also painted a golden chain running diagonally across the chest of a man who puts his right hand on a statue. This man showed a prodigal son in a tavern next to himself and his wife Saskia in one of his 80-plus self-portraits. This artist of Aristotle contemplating a bust of Homer showed a lone woman with a chicken on her belt amid a drum, a banner, and 20 armed men, and he also showed students of Nicholas Tulp gawking at a cut-open arm. For 10 points, name this painter of The Anatomy Lesson and The Night Watch, a Dutch master. Artist and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 7. An artist from this movement painted an angel tugging on the hair of a naked goddess for the dressing room of his patroness. A dog rests at the feet of 2 lovers reading love letters in a painting from its Progress of Love series. In a painting from this movement, a man lies in a bush beneath a cupid putting its finger to its lips. In a Fete Gallant from this movement, set on the birthplace of Venus, 3 pairs of lovers embark on the voyage to Cytherea. The definitive painting from this movement has a woman in a pink dress being pushed by her husband on a swing. For 10 points, name this ornate movement that followed the Baroque in France. Artist and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 9. This painter's chalk self-portraits include one at the age of 17 and later portrait as figure in horror. This artist painted over his work The Strawberry Girl to create a portrait of a young girl in a yellow dress. The Age of Innocence. A corpulent admiral holds a saber and stares directly at the viewer in one of his portraits of Augustus Keppel. In opposition to this man's influence, the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was formed. In one work by this painter, allegories of pity and terror appear behind an actress depicted as Melpomene. This man introduced his idea of the grand style in his lecture series Discourses of Art, and he painted Sarah Siddons as the tragic muse. For 10 points, name this British painter who founded the Royal Academy of Arts. Artists and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 10. A drummer on the right of this painting has been partially cut off due to alterations that remove 2 figures on the left. A shield hanging over an arched gateway in the background bears the name of 18 people who commissioned this painting. A man in red on the left of this painting is shown reloading his rifle in front of an illuminated girl in a yellow dress carrying a chicken. The girl stares at this painting's main figure, who wears black clothing and a red sash across his chest. For 10 points, name this painting by Rembrandt that depicts the militia of Captain Franz Benning Koch. Artists and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 11. The dedicatee of this painting donated it to a London orphanage, while its artist painted a full-scale replica for himself, which now hangs in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. The poses of 2 figures in this work are reminiscent of Raphael's miraculous draft of fishes, and Morro Castle can be seen in its background. 2 people clad in white extend their arms downward, and an upright black man holds a rope in his hand, while his white companion thrusts a spear into the waters of Havana Harbor. For 10 points, identify this painting in which the crew of a rowboat attempts to rescue the first title figure from the jaws of an ocean predator, a work of John Singleton Copley. 1 through 45, toss-up number 12. The sun illuminates a small white dog at the foot of a tree in this work, in which the leftmost figure points upwards while holding a 3-cornered hat and wearing a rose on his lapel. The central figure in this work wears a hat in the shepherdess style, and supposedly this work was created after Gabriel Francois Doyen turned down a commission. A winged statue on the left of this painting holds a finger to its lips as cherubs sit below, and one man in this painting pulls the ropes of the title device as a woman in a pink dress loses her shoe. For 10 points, name this Rococo painting by Jean-Honoré Fragonard, in which a woman rides the title hanging seat. Artist and works number 31 through 45, toss-up number 13. An early portrait by this man shows a man with a little expression with his hand on his face and an open book in Benjamin Waterhouse. After meeting Benjamin West, he began using a looser brush style evident in the skater William Grant. After moving to Dublin, he painted a portrait of newly appointed John Fitzgibbon, a work whose style would be replicated in another work of his. In addition to a portrait of Horatio Gates and a medallion of Thomas Jefferson, this man's works include an unfinished Athenaeum portrait and a Lasdowne portrait that has the subject wearing a black suit, a sword in his left hand, and his right hand raised out. For 10 points, name this early American portraitist who did about 100 depictions of George Washington. Artists and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 14. A faint arch and a poster can be seen in the background of this work. The lower right of this painting features an open book with frayed edges. A man in the center of this painting had just committed a robbery prior to being subjected to the titular action. The title figure of this painting holds forceps and is depicted explaining the muscle movement of the arm. A group of onlookers in black circle around a body in, for 10 points, what's 1632 painting by Rembrandt depicting a medical scene. Artist and works 31 through 45, toss-up number 15. A model of the patron's Dutch estate sits on a shelf in the upper left of this artist's The Hope Family. A grief-stricken Britannia, cast in shadow, stands next to a lion as Neptune delivers the title Admiral to her in this artist's The Immortality of Nelson. Putti surround the title scientist as he raises a hand to a key tied to a kite string, and this artist's Benjamin Franklin drawing electricity from the sky. In another of his paintings, a tomahawk sits under the tattooed leg of a man who adopts the thinker's pose. In that contemporary painting, or history painting by this artist, Thomas Hind kneels to try to stop the bleeding of the title British hero. For 10 points, name this Anglo-American painter who depicted the Battle of the Plains Plains of Abraham in The Death of General Wolfe. Artists and Works number 31 through 45, toss-up number 16. This painting hangs opposite a 1794 Thomas Lawrence painting in the Huntington. The 17th century apparel of this painting's subject is an homage to Anthony van Dyck's portrait of Charles I. The dark sky in the background contrasts with the light face of the subject, who stands with his left arm at his waist and holds a feathered hat in his right hand. The subject is generally thought to be Jonathan Buttle and is prominently dressed in the titular color. For 10 points, name this portrait by Thomas Gainsborough. Artists and Works 31 through 45, toss-up number 17. Early in his career, this painter did serious historical and religious work, such as Jeroboam sacrificing to the idols. This painter worked on a series which generally showed a blonde-haired woman wearing white or yellow clothes being pursued by a man usually wearing red, in works such as The Pursuit, The Meeting, and The Lover Crowned. That series is The Progress of Love. Another work by this artist shows a man holding a woman in one arm as he reaches with the other hand to bolt the door, and another work shows a young girl in yellow sitting and reading a small book. This artist also showed a man in white lying on the ground holding up an object towards a woman dressed in bright pink who is kicking off her shoes. For 10 points, name this Rococo and neoclassicist French painter of the swing. Artists and Works 31 through 45, toss-up number 18. Christina Payne once indicated that a broken pitcher in one of this man's paintings may have had to do with a pregnant figure's virginity. Another painting by this man depicts a 22-year-old man holding a rifle as he sits next to a woman in a blue dress. This man's most famous work hangs opposite a Thomas Lawrence painting titled Pinky. This painting of the Harvest Wagon and Mr. and Mrs. Andrews created a work in which a youth hands a black hat in one hand while he rests his other hand on his side. The creator of a portrait of Jonathan Butall, this is, for 10 points, which English portraitist who painted the Blue Boy. Artists and Works 31 through 45, toss-up number 21. This artist depicted the title figure dressed as a Vestal Virgin, glancing over her shoulder while reclining on an Empire-style sofa in his Portrait of Madame Récamier. In another of his paintings, a woman in orange clutches her crying children as corpses are borne in on the left, behind the title figure who sits in the shadows. The title figure of another painting by this artist of The Lictors Bring to Brutus the Bodies of His Sons holds a letter from Charlotte Corday as he slumps in his bath. Another painting by him shows three brothers reaching towards three swords held by their father. For 10 points, name this French painter of The Death of Marat and Oath of the Horatii. Artists and Works 31 through 45, 24. This painting shows a figure at the end of a hallway, likely the main character's wife, who is being led away by two men. The right side of this painting is dominated by 5 men, several of whom either turn away or cover their eyes from the central scene. A broken shackle appears under the bed that the titular event takes place on, and a guard holds a cup with his right hand, while an orange-clad Crito grabs the title person's thigh. That person, a bearded man, pointing his index finger up in the air, looks away from the person at the foot of the bed, Plato. For 10 points, name this painting in which a Greek philosopher is about to fatally drink hemlock, a 1787 work by Jacques-Louis David. Artists and Works 31 through 45, question 26. A student of this artist's works, Anne-Louis Giraudet, depicted a continuation of its story in which a title character kills his sister for mourning her fiancé, the death of Camilla. That sister is in the painting itself, along with several other women on the right-hand side. The central figures are preparing to fight an analogous group from Alba Longa, one of whom is Camilla's husband-to-be, who is killed in the altercation. A secondary focus is the background, whose arches number the same as the title character, while one of the men is clutching a spear in his right hand and himself being held by his brother. A man in front of them has one hand open and 3 swords in the other, while the 3 title characters stretch their arms forward towards the swords. For 10 points, name this painting depicting a triplet of soldiers swearing to fight for Rome by Jacques-Louis David. Artists and Works 31 through 45, question number 28. In one response to this work, subtitled The Murderess, Edvard Munch painted a hat and a bowl of fruit sitting on a table next to a nude woman. In this work, a quill is held aloft next to a wooden writing tablet bearing the artist's dedication. A confession of unhappiness and a plea for help written in French appear on a paper held by one figure in this painting who wears a white headcloth. The scene in this painting follows the assassination of a young journalist by the absent Girondin sympathizer Charlotte Corday. For 10 points, name this artwork depicting a deceased Frenchman in a bathtub, a painting by Jacques-Louis David. Artists and works, Tossups 31 now through 52, number 30. This man declined to supervise the construction of fortifications near Tangiers, though he did design the chapel for Pembroke College in Cambridge. His son of the same name, by Faith Coggle, wrote a family memoir, Parentalia, completed his major work, and placed the inscription on his tombstone, "If you seek his memorial, look around you." His major work was completed from his great model, after most of it was destroyed in a fire in 1666. St. Paul's Cathedral was designed by, for 10 points, what British architect of more than 50 churches?